My husband had a sister, well, that was what he called her. She was adopted. I pushed open the door and found them tangled together on the couch, naked as the day they were born. The woman didn't scream. Instead, she smiled at me. She tossed me a box. Inside was a thick stack of IOUs, every single one signed by my husband. Your husband can't pay me back, she said. So he fucks me 3 times a week. The interest? That diamond ring on your finger. I smiled. Okay, I said. I came home from my business trip early, hoping to surprise my husband. The door was unlocked. Holding the late-night takeout I'd picked up for Ian, I stood frozen in the foyer. From the living room came the muffled, unmistakable gasps of a woman. Then there was also the heavy, ragged breathing of a man. It was a sound I knew all too well. It was my husband of 3 years.
Ian.
I stopped mid-step, one shoe still in my hand. The blood in my veins turned to ice. My suitcase slipped from my fingers and hit the floor with a thud. Thump. The frantic sounds from the couch cut off abruptly. A dead silence filled the living room. Who's there? It was Ian's voice, husky with lingering desire and a thread of panic. I didn't answer. I walked slowly, step by step, toward the source of the sounds I just heard. The living room lights were off. The only illumination was the cold, pale moonlight seeping through the windows. It outlined 2 figures intertwined on the sofa, naked, gleaming with sweat, fused together. Ian went rigid, but the woman beneath him slowly, ever so slowly, lifted her head.
She smiled at me.
I knew that face. Vivian, the sister Ian was always talking about. Hey, Jasmine, you're home early. Her voice was sugary sweet, like poison dipped in honey. Ian scrambled to get off her, fumbling for something to cover himself. But Vivian hooked an arm around his neck and pressed him down. She reached behind him, sinking a strap-on toy deeper into him, holding him in place. Her nails dug into his bare shoulders. Don't move, brother, she purred. Her eyes met mine, filled with naked challenge and triumph. The show's not over for our audience. A wave of nausea, pure and visceral, hit me. I felt sick to my stomach. I watched them, feeling like I was witnessing some grotesque silent play. I reached over and flicked on the main light. Let's see how brazen they could be under full glare. Ian's face was paper white under the harsh light. Jasmine, it's not what you think. His voice trembled. Then what is it? I finally spoke. My voice sounded eerily calm and detached, like it belonged to someone else. Vivian let out a light, tinkling laugh. She pushed Ian aside and took her time retrieving a slinky slip dress from between the couch cushions, sliding it on with deliberate slowness. Then, she bent and pulled a delicate velvet box from under the coffee table. She walked right up to me. The cloying scent of her perfume, mixed with the smell of sex, hit me in the face. Here, Jasmine, let me show you something. She opened the box. There was neither jewelry inside nor trinkets inside. Just a thick, neat stack of papers. Promissory notes.
Yes.
Every last one was signed at the bottom, with Ian's flamboyant signature. My eyes locked onto the amount on the top note. $500,000. The date was 3 years ago, right after we got married. So it started back then. A tightness seized my chest, stealing my breath. Vivian watched my face, a satisfied smirk curling her lips. Your husband owes me $10 million. Then, as if it wasn't clear enough, she added, he can't pay. Her finger traced the edges of the notes, a caress that was almost tender. So, we worked out a new repayment plan. She jerked her chin toward Ian, who was still huddled on the couch. Her look was a mix of scorn and possession. 3 times a week. I fuck him. That covers the principal. Her gaze finally dropped, landing on the diamond solitaire on my left hand. The ring. Ian bought it for me with his first big project bonus. He'd said it was a symbol of our love. Vivian smiled. It was an innocent, cruel smile. As for the interest, her gaze darted back to my face. That would be the diamond finger wearing. He told me it was his most precious possession, she added sweetly. Then, with a saccharine smile, she decided, I think it'll do nicely. The whole house was deathly silent. Ian had finally found his pants and was struggling to put them on. He rushed over, trying to snatch the box from Vivian's hands. Vivian, enough. Give that to me. Vivian dodged nimbly, slipping behind me. Ian, why are you so flustered? A debt is a debt. What's more, your wife has the right to know, doesn't she? Ian looked at me, his eyes filled with nothing but pleading and despair. Jasmine, listen, let me explain. Explain? I cut him off, repeating the word and finding it utterly absurd.
Fine.
Then explain. Ian's lips moved, but no sound came out. I raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. The sharp crack sent a stinging numbness through my palm. I turned and looked at Vivian. 1 million. Vivian nodded, a sweet smile on her face. 1 million even. Not a penny more or less. 3 times a week. The smile on her face deepened. Sometimes, when he performs well, I reward him with an extra session. I nodded slowly. Then I looked back at Ian. He looked like a convict awaiting sentencing, clutching his freshly slapped cheek, his whole body trembling. Is what she's saying true? Lon lifted his eyes to me but didn't answer. His silence was the only answer I needed. Suddenly, I felt overwhelmingly tired. A bone-deep exhaustion seeped out of me. I didn't even have the energy for rage or more questions. I just looked at him. At this man I had loved for 5 years and been married to for 3. His face still bore the flush from being with another woman. The air still carried the scent of their union. And me? I was the fool who had rushed home, hoping to surprise him. My gaze slowly drifted down to my left hand's ring finger. The diamond ring I was wearing refracted a harsh, glaring light under the cold glow of the overhead lamp. Once, I thought it reflected our future. But right then and there I knew. It was just the interest in the debt. I raised my hand. Han flinched, thinking I was going to hurl the ring at him. Vivian's eyes gleamed, probably expecting me to tear it off and hand it over in defeat. Instead, I just gently, softly, ran my finger over the diamond surface. Then, I lifted my eyes to Vivian. I smiled a very faint, very light smile. All right, I said. Just the one word. Both Ian and Vivian were stunned. What did you say? Vivian's smug expression froze on her face. I repeated it, my voice clear and calm. I said, all right. It's just a ring, right? I said simply. You can have it. I made a move to take it off. But my tone shifted again. If you're getting the interest, what about the principal? I looked at the pathetic man on the sofa. 3 times a week. Doesn't that seem a little insufficient? $1 million, how long is that going to take him to pay off? My voice was detached, as if discussing a business deal that had nothing to do with me. Vivian's expression shifted from shock to wary assessment. She was probably trying to figure out if I'd lost my mind. Ian was staring at me like I was a complete stranger. Jasmine, he began. I ignored him. I walked over to Vivian and took the box full of IOUs from her hands. I flipped through them one by one. Each slip of paper felt like a knife dragging across my heart. Then I stopped at one sheet. It wasn't an IOU. It was a draft equity transfer agreement. The shares being transferred were for my father's small, precious jewelry design studio, the one he left to. The transferee's name was Lon. My hands began to tremble. So the interest wasn't the ring. The principal wasn't his body. This was their real target. My father's life's work. My everything. I clutched the piece of paper in my hand, my fingers trembling slightly. My teeth were clenched so tight that I could hear them grind. I looked up, my gaze locking onto Ian. He avoided my eyes, his own darting away. What is this? My voice was hoarse, like sandpaper scraping across concrete. Ian couldn't bring himself to look at me, his lips quivering. Jasmine, I was just trying to what? I took a step closer. To help you. Your studio has been losing money, I thought. Help me? Olive burst out of me, one that bordered on hysterical. Plus 20 free coins. You were helping me by bringing my business rival into my house and fucking her on my couch while I was away on a business trip? You were helping me by signing a $1 million IOU and planning to use my studio as collateral. Seething, I glared at him. Ian, you're one hell of a husband. I practically spat the last words at him. Vivian stood to the side, with her arms crossed and a victorious smirk playing on her lips. Jasmine, don't be too hard on him. He had your best interests at heart. That little dump of a studio of yours was going under anyway. He was just helping you cut your losses. I whirled around to face her. Who asked you? The smirk faltered on her face. You're nothing but a home-wrecking bitch. A loan shark. What gives you the right to have an opinion about my life? I looked straight at her, enunciating every word with cold clarity. Get out of my house. Vivian's face flushed, then paled. She looked at Ian, her eyes a mix of wounded plea and command. Ian, receiving the signal, immediately stepped between us. Jasmine, don't talk to Vivian like that. She means well. Means well. I stared at the man in front of me, the absurdity of it all washing over me. He was still defending her. The woman he was cheating with. In our home. In front of his wife. My heart didn't just break. It turned to ash. In that instant, all the pain, the fury, and the disgust, they all vanished, replaced by a cold, bone-deep calm. I looked at him as if he were an inanimate object. Ian, I said. You get out too. His whole body jerked as if struck. He stared at me, disbelief etched on his face. Jasmine, what are you saying? This is our home. The moment she walked in, it became my home. I pointed at Vivian. Take your creditor and get out of my house. Vivian finally lost her composure. Jasmine, don't you dare act all high and mighty. Who do you think you are? Ian paid the down payment on this place. He pays the mortgage every month. You're the one who should get out. I smiled. Oh, really? I walked into the bedroom and pulled open a drawer. From a stack of documents, I retrieved the grant deed and a recent bank statement. I threw them onto the coffee table with a slap. Take a good look.
The
grant deed has only my name on it. The down payment came from my prenuptial agreement fund. As for the monthly mortgage, I pointed at the bank statement. For the last 3 years, every single payment has been auto-debited from my account. Ian? I shot him a dismissive glance. His salary can barely support his own lifestyle, let alone cover a mortgage. Ian's face flushed a deep, mortified red. He probably never imagined I kept such clear records. Vivian's expression was a sight to behold. She snatched up the grant deed, turning it over and over as if trying to find a loophole. This can't be right, he told me. What did he tell you? I asked coldly. That he was supporting me? That I was a useless spendthrift? That this household would fall apart without him? That I couldn't survive without him? Her face confirmed it all. I looked at Ian again, and all I felt was pity. What kind of man would need to spin such pathetic lies to prop up his own fragile ego? How utterly incompetent and insecure. Now, I said, my voice flat and final. Get out. Vivian clutched the grant deed, her entire body trembling with rage. She had likely never imagined her carefully laid plans would stumble at the very first step. She directed all her fury at Ian. Ian, you useless piece of shit, she shrieked, hurling the folded document at his face. Plus 20 free coins. You told me this house was yours. You said Jasmine couldn't survive without you. You lied to me. Ian staggered back, a red mark instantly blooming on his cheek. He didn't dare fight back. He just hung his head, taking the abuse with pathetic weakness. I didn't mean to. You're a failure. A complete and utter failure. Vivian wasn't finished. She rushed at him, kicking and hitting him in a frenzy. I watched the spectacle coldly, like watching two dogs fight. Enough, I said, my voice icy. If you want to fight, take it outside. Vivian's assault stopped. She stood there panting, glaring at me with pure venom. Don't look so smug, Jasmine, she spat. So the house is yours. So what?
She scoffed.
The money your husband owes me is real. That equity transfer agreement? He signed it himself. She seemed to cling to this as her last lifeline. If he can't pay, your studio is collateral. Perfectly reasonable. Let's see how high and mighty you are then. With that, she scooped up the IOUs and the agreement from the floor, grabbed a dazed Lon by the arm, and dragged him toward the door. At the threshold, she turned back, flashing me a vicious smile. Oh, and Jasmine? I forgot to mention something. Her voice was sickly sweet. The diamond in that ring on your finger? It's fake. The real one? Your husband pawned it ages ago. For me. What you're wearing is just a cubic zirconia I had made. With a cruel smirk, she exclaimed, "Surprise." She let out a sharp, grating laugh and pulled Ian out, slamming the door shut behind them with a final, thunderous bang. Silence. Finally. I stood in the empty living room, motionless as a statue. For a long, long time. Slowly, I raised my left hand. The diamond ring still glittered under the lights, cheap and garish.
Fake.
It had all been fake from the start. My love, my marriage, my ring, all of it. I looked at it, and suddenly, the nausea I'd been holding back erupted. I barely made it to the bathroom before I was vomiting violently into the toilet until there was nothing left but bitter bile. Leaning against the cold tile wall, I slid down to the floor. And finally, the tears came. Not with loud sobs, but silently, relentlessly. Each drop traced a scalding path down my skin like molten lava. I didn't know how long I sat there. Eventually, my phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out numbly. The screen showed a name, Jason. My childhood friend. He was also one of the top corporate lawyers in the state. I answered the call, but my throat was too raw to form a sound. Hello? Jasmine? Jason's voice was, as always, steady and calm. You okay? A contact mentioned your main competitor has been meeting with someone named Vivian recently. Seems to be circling your studio shares. Got worried, so I wanted to check in. The tears flooded my eyes again. So he already knew. So, everyone in the world probably knew I was a fool. Only I had been left in the dark. I took a deep, shuddering breath, marshalling every ounce of strength I had left to make my voice sound normal. Jason. My voice was scratchy, but clear. I need your help. Gulping down the lump in my throat, I added, I want a divorce. Then, after releasing a shuddering breath, I said, and I want them ruined. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Then came Jason's reply, firm and resolute. Okay. Send me everything you have, he instructed. I'll handle the rest, he promised, his voice steady. After hanging up, I wiped my tears and pulled myself up from the floor. I lunged for the study, booting up Ian's computer. It had no password, so I easily navigated into his private folder. Inside, there was only one file, a video. The file name read, Leverage for Vivian. My heart hammered against my ribs. I clicked play. The footage was shaky, filmed from Ian's perspective. He seemed to be talking to someone. Do we really have to do this? His voice was thick with hesitation, almost pity. A woman's voice answered, sweet yet cold. Vivian, what's the matter? Having second thoughts. Plus 20 free coins. Then, after a heartbeat, Vivian continued, Ian, don't forget what you owe me. If you can't handle this little thing, how do you expect to get your hands on your precious wife's studio? Let me tell you, without my capital injection, that dump of hers won't last a month. Ian fell silent. A few seconds later, he spoke, resolve hardening his tone.
Fine.
I'll do it. The scene changed. The camera focused on a table. On it lay my diamond ring, along with a small set of precision pliers and tweezers used for jewelry work. My breath caught in my throat. I watched, helpless. As Ian's hands entered the frame, he picked up the tools and, with clumsy, deliberate movements, began to pry open the delicate prongs holding the diamond in place. His movements were slow and forceful, as if he weren't disassembling a ring but breaking my bones. He carefully removed the priceless, glittering stone. Then, from the side, he picked up another stone of identical size, a garish, cheap-looking cubic zirconia. He set the fake into the empty mounting. My mind went utterly blank. So, that was how it happened. My husband took the real diamond to gift to his creditor and mistress. Then, he placed a counterfeit back on his wife's finger.
And he filmed it.
As leverage. Proof of his loyalty to another woman.
Ha.
Ha 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 ha. I couldn't hold it back anymore. A wild, hysterical laugh erupted from me, but tears streamed down my face even as I laughed. What kind of monster had I married? I thought he was just an adulterer, a debtor, and a weakling. I never imagined he could sink to such despicable depths. I designed this ring myself. Inside the band, I had our initials engraved. When he was prying it apart, did he hesitate for even a single second? What did our 3 years of marriage mean to him? Just a cheap setting, with a stone that could be swapped out at will? Rage. A boundless, volcanic fury erupted in my chest. I wanted to kill him. I genuinely wanted to kill him. I stormed out of the study, snatched my car keys from the table, and ran outside. I had to find him. I had to ask him if he even had a heart. I drove like a maniac, speeding through the deserted late-night streets. I had no idea where to look. Suddenly, my phone rang. Jason. Jasmine, where are you right now? His voice held an urgency I'd never heard before. I found something. You need to see it immediately. I don't care. I screamed, sobbing into the phone. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to find him and kill him. Jasmine. Jason's voice sharpened, cutting through my hysteria with commanding force. Calm down and listen to me. The money law knows. It's not 1 million. Then, without preamble, Jason dropped the bomb. It's 10 million. I slammed on the brakes. Tires screeched violently against the asphalt. My head jerked forward and cracked against the steering wheel. What did you say? I traced the financials of Vivian's company and Ian's personal accounts. 3 years ago, Vivian's firm transferred $10 million to Lon via an offshore account. That money was immediately funneled by Ian into another anonymous account, and then it vanished. The $1 million IOU was just a prop, something for you to find. Their real target was never your studio. Jason's words hit me like a sledgehammer. Jasmine, think.
Hard.
In the last 3 years, did you ever notice any unusually large, unexplained expenses from Ian? Or did he ever do anything major he kept from you? My mind raced. Unusually large expenses?
No.
I managed his salary account. I saw every transaction. He didn't have that capability. Something major he kept from me. A memory flashed, sharp and sudden. 2 years ago, my father had a sudden heart attack and needed bypass surgery. The procedure and hospital costs were astronomical. Worse, he needed a specialty drug from overseas, exorbitantly expensive and nearly impossible to find. I was frantic, calling in every favor, begging anyone who might help. It was Ian. A week later, he showed up with the medication and a bank card loaded with $200,000. He said he'd borrowed it from a friend in business. He said the friend gave him the medication for free as a personal favor. He told me not to worry and that he'd pay the money back slowly. I was moved to tears. I believed I'd married the best man in the world. Now, the truth dawned, cold and horrifying. That friend. So, that was when it started. That was when I fell into the trap they had woven for me. I used their money to save my father's life. And in doing so, I became Ian's most valuable and most easily betrayed asset. How laughable. How utterly twisted. I slumped over the steering wheel, feeling cold to my core as my body was racked with tremors. Jason, on the other end of the line, instantly picked up on my state. Jasmine, what is it? What did you remember? I told him about my father's surgery. A long, heavy silence followed. Finally, Jason let out a sigh. AC. This isn't just a simple case of adultery and debt. This is a meticulously planned scam, targeting you from the very beginning. Vivian's goal might not just be the money, or even your studio. What she wants is to utterly destroy you.
Destroy you.
I let the words sink in, a chill shooting up my spine. Vivian and I had no deep-seated grudge between us. Why would she do this to me? Jason, dig deeper for me, I said, my voice now cold and steady. Dig into Vivian, her company, and her entire history with Ian. Then track that 10 million. I want the whole truth. Consider it done, Jason replied without hesitation. After hanging up, I didn't go home. I turned the car around and drove towards my studio. It was the last thing my father left me.
My sanctuary.
My livelihood. And the very thing they were so desperate to take from me. I couldn't let anything happen to it. The studio in the dead of night was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. I turned on every light. The familiar tools, the unfinished sketches, the gemstones glittering under the lamps, all of it slowly, steadily, calmed the storm inside me. Rage and pain wouldn't solve anything. They'd just turn me into the hysterical wreck they wanted to see. I wouldn't give them that satisfaction. I walked to my workbench. From my pocket, I took out the fake diamond ring. I stared at it, at that cheap, counterfeit stone. A wild, audacious idea began to take shape in my mind. Vivian wanted her interest. Ian wanted to use my studio to settle his debt. They both thought I'd already lost.
Fine.
I'd play along. I picked up the blowtorch from my table and ignited it. A blue flame danced in the darkness with an eerie glow. I secured the ring on a fireproof pad. Then, I aimed the flame directly at the diamond. Cubic zirconia has a low melting point. Under the intense heat, it quickly distorted, softened, and finally pooled into a murky, ugly liquid. The platinum setting glowed red-hot and pliable under the torch. I turned off the blowtorch. With tweezers, I picked up the misshapen, now empty ring. It looked like a hollow, mocking eye. I looked at it and smiled. Then I opened the studio safe. From inside, I retrieved another diamond. One that was larger, more flawless, and more brilliant than the original. It was my secret treasure, the centerpiece I'd been saving for the next major jewelry design competition. With meticulous care, I set this magnificent stone into the hollow, waiting prongs. It fit perfectly, flawlessly. I held up the reborn ring. Under the lights, it blazed with a radiance 100 times more dazzling than before. Like a phoenix, risen from the ashes. I slid it back onto my ring finger. Then I took out my phone and sent a series of texts to Ian. I forgive you. Let's start over. Come home, honey. I'm waiting for you. Ian's reply came almost instantly. Really, Jasmine? You actually forgive me? It was then followed by a string of ecstatic emojis. Looking at the screen, I felt a wave of physical nausea. I fought it down and typed back a string of responses. Yes. I shouldn't have been so rash, throwing you and Vivian out like that. We can figure out the money issue together. Let's keep family matters behind closed doors, okay? Then he replied, Yes. Yes. I'm coming home right now. Wait for me. He used multiple exclamation points, desperate to convey his excitement. I put the phone down, walked to the window, and lit a cigarette. I rarely smoke, but today I needed the nicotine to steady my nerves. In the haze of smoke, my reflection in the dark glass looked blurred and indistinct. I knew, from the moment I sent that text, the real war had begun. The lead?
Me.
The battlefield? My home, my studio, and my life. And my weapons were all the humiliation and betrayal they had heaped upon me. Half an hour later, the lock clicked. Ian was back, alone. He looked haggard, with dark circles under his eyes, but there was a distinct air of relief about him. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, and he hurried over to embrace me. But then, I instinctively took a step back. His arms froze midair. The atmosphere turned awkward. Jasmine, I stubbed out the cigarette and gave him a weak smile. I'm exhausted. Let's talk tomorrow, all right? With that, I turned and walked into the bedroom, locking the door behind me. I could hear his heavy sigh from the other side. I lay in bed all night, eyes open, sleepless. The next morning, I got up early. Ian was still asleep in the guest room. I applied a flawless layer of makeup to cover the exhaustion on my face. Then I went into the kitchen and started making breakfast, just like I used to. This was the scene Ian woke up to, his wife in an apron, busy in the kitchen. Then there were his favorites, fried eggs and bacon waiting on the table. Sunlight streamed through the window. Everything looked just as it had before.
Warm. Perfect.
As if yesterday's hysterical confrontation had just been a bad dream. Ian's eyes grew red-rimmed. Jasmine, he walked over and carefully wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. His warm breath hit my neck. A shudder ran through me. I almost lost control, nearly giving in to the urge to drive an elbow into his ribs. But I held back. I turned around, lifted my hand, and gently touched his face. "You've lost weight," I said, my voice dripping with a tenderness that could have melted sugar. Ian's body stiffened, and then he hugged me tighter. "I'm sorry, Jasmine. I'm so sorry." He buried his face in the crook of my neck, apologizing over and over like a chastised child. I let him hold me. My gaze, over his shoulder, found the mirror in the living room. Reflected in it, my face was utterly expressionless. Just a cold, dead expanse of indifference. During breakfast, I casually brought it up. "Honey, about that money you owe Vivian, what exactly is the situation? $1 million isn't small change. We need to figure out a way to pay it back fast." Ian's face paled slightly. He put down his fork and knife, hesitating. "Jasmine, don't worry about this. I'll handle it." "How can I not worry?" I frowned, wearing a mask of deep concern. "We're married. Your problems are my problems. What if we sell the suburban condo? It won't cover it all, but we could get a couple $100,000 from it." I was referring to the small apartment I'd bought before the marriage, which had been sitting empty. Ian immediately shook his head.
No.
"That's your place. We can't sell that." He sounded so righteous, as if he were genuinely protecting my interests. I laughed coldly inside. "Then what do we do?" I sighed. "We can't actually let Vivian take my studio, can we? It's the only thing Dad left me." As I spoke, my eyes welled up with manufactured tears. He panicked instantly. "Don't cry, Jasmine. I'll think of something. I promise I will. That studio is your life's work. I won't let anyone take it from you." He swore with great conviction. Watching his clumsy performance, I suddenly found it all hilarious. I lifted my left hand, pretending to wipe a tear away. The newly resurrected diamond ring flashed briefly before his eyes. Ian's gaze was instantly captured. He stared at the ring, unable to hide his shock and confusion. He was probably wondering why this cubic zirconia looked even more brilliant than the real diamond he'd given away. I deliberately stretched my hand out towards him. "Look, honey, our ring is so beautiful. As long as we face this together, we can overcome anything, right?" I smiled with innocent, girlish sweetness. Ian's Adam's apple bobbed. He looked at me, then back at the ring, his expression a tangled mess of emotions. I knew it. The fish was starting to question the bait. And that was exactly what I wanted. The following days, I played the role of the devoted and foolishly forgiving wife to perfection. I cooked all of Ian's favorite meals, rotating the menu daily. If he worked late, a lamp was always on, and a pot of hot soup was waiting for him. I even suggested, with serene grace, that we invite Vivian out to talk. "We're practically family. We should clear the air. As your wife, I should be the bigger person." My words dripped with sincere, gentle reason. Ian looked at me, with eyes full of gratitude and guilt. He probably thought I had genuinely forgiven him and was ready to accept Vivian into our fractured circle. Only I knew the truth. Nestled in my heart was a blade, horrid and poisoned. Ian started leaving early and coming home late again. He claimed it was to work on raising the money. But I knew he was going to see Vivian. My ring was a thorn in their side. They had to know if it was real or not. I gave them the opportunity. On Friday night, I pretended to feel unwell and went to bed early. In the middle of the night, a faint rustling sound woke me. I didn't open my eyes, keeping my breathing slow and steady. In the darkness, a figure crept to the side of my bed.
Ian.
By the sliver of moonlight from the window, he stared intently at the ring on my finger. Then he reached out, intending to slide it off. My heart hammered in my throat. Just as his fingertips were about to brush my skin, I happened to roll over in my sleep. Ian flinched violently, snatching his hand back as if burned. He stood frozen, not daring to move. I could hear his frantic, irregular heartbeat. After what felt like an eternity, he retreated from the room like a thief. I opened my eyes, looked at the ceiling, and smiled soundlessly. The next day, I accidentally left the ring on the bathroom counter. Then, I made an excuse about needing to run to the store and left the house. I didn't go far. I sat in the cafe downstairs and opened my phone. On the screen was the live feed from the miniature cameras I'd installed at home days before. Less than 10 minutes after I left, Ian slunk into the bathroom. He picked up the ring, turning it over and over in his hands. Then, he pulled a portable diamond thermal tester from his pocket. A professional-grade tool. They were going all out to verify this. I watched as he touched the tester's probe to the surface of the stone. The indicator on the device instantly shot to the top of the scale, emitting a series of sharp, approving beeps. It was the signal for a genuine diamond. Ian's expression froze solid. Disbelief flooded his face. He tested it again. Of course, it yielded the same result. All the color drained from his face, leaving it ashen. He held the ring as if it were a live coal, pacing the small bathroom in agitated circles. Then he made a call. "Vivian." His voice was shaking. "We have a problem. Jasmine's ring, it's real." I couldn't hear Vivian's response, but whatever she said made Ian's face twist further. "I don't know. I swapped them myself."
You saw the video.
"It can't be wrong." A pause. His eyes widened. "What? You think I switched them again? That I took the real one and put in something even more valuable?"
I didn't.
"How could you think I'd lie to you?" Another pause, more forceful.
Fine. Fine.
"Don't get mad. I'll bring it tonight. You can see for yourself." He hung up and slumped onto the closed toilet lid, looking utterly defeated. His face was a grotesque mask of fear, confusion, and a flicker of raw, desperate greed. I closed the monitoring app and took a sip of my now-cold coffee. It tasted bitter and harsh, just like my current mood.
No.
That wasn't quite right. It tasted better, because I knew the main event was just getting started. They doubted me. They distrusted each other. Their entire scheme was thrown into chaos by the impossible, brilliant diamond that shouldn't exist. And this was only the first move. My revenge was a grand exhibition, meticulously crafted from jewels and lies. And they were to be my most important exhibits. That evening, I prepared a lavish dinner and opened a bottle of red wine. To us, honey. A fresh start. I raised my glass with a radiant smile. Ian clinked his glass with mine, distracted. His eyes kept drifting involuntarily to my hand. I pretended not to notice. After a few glasses, I pretended to succumb to the wine and slumped over the table, feigning sleep. From the corner of my eye, I saw Ian stand up. He walked over to me and gently, so gently, slipped the ring off my finger. He pocketed it, grabbed his jacket, and hurried out the door. I slowly lifted my head. The smile that touched my lips was cold and eerie.
Go on.
Go see your dear sister. Go see the second gift I've prepared for you. After Ian left, I didn't sleep. I changed into black clothes, put on a cap and a face mask, and left the house. I took a cab to the most exclusive private club in the city, Vivian and Ian's meeting spot. I didn't go in. Instead, I handed something to the doorman. A small USB drive. "Please plug this into the TV in their private room," I said, passing him a thick wad of cash. "Tell them it's a gift from Jasmine." The doorman's eyes lit up, a knowing look passing between us. "Understood. Consider it done." I turned and left without a backward glance. All that was left was to find the best seat in the house and enjoy the show. I went to the hotel across from the club and booked a room with a perfect view of the entrance. I pulled back the curtains and took out the high-powered binoculars I'd prepared. Before long, Vivian's flashy red sports car pulled up arrogantly to the club entrance. She stepped out in a fiery red dress and towering heels, swaying her way inside. About 10 minutes later, an ambulance, with its sirens wailing, screeched to a halt outside. Paramedics rushed in with a stretcher. My heart clenched. Then, someone burst out of the club doors.
Ian.
His clothes were disheveled, his face and clothes smeared with blood. His expression was one of absolute terror, as if he'd seen a ghost. He didn't even notice the ambulance. He just ran, stumbling madly across the street. A delivery truck sped around the corner. The screech of brakes and the sickening, heavy thud of impact happened at the same time. Ian's body was thrown into the air like a discarded ragdoll, then crashed down onto the asphalt, tracing a horrifying, crimson arc through the night. My hand jerked. The binoculars slipped from my fingers, landing on the carpet with a dull thud.
I saw it. I saw it clearly.
In the final second before he was hit, Ian's gaze was fixed in my direction. His eyes held no pain, no hatred, only a strange sense of release. And a flicker of something unsettling. A smile. My mind went blank with a deafening hum. What just happened?
No.
This wasn't part of the plan. My plan didn't include death. I just wanted to ruin them. The USB drive contained my carefully edited footage. The video of Lon swapping the diamond. Footage of him on his knees, being berated like a dog by Vivian. The recording of their shameless affair on my couch. And a forged appraisal certificate for the larger, more brilliant diamond. An estimated value, $3 million. I'd even accidentally let slip in the materials that I'd acquired the stone through a special channel at a bargain price. I had banked on Vivian's greed and paranoia. Seeing the video, she would assume Ian had double-crossed her, using her money to buy a more valuable diamond to either win me back or keep for himself. She'd be furious, unhinged. They'd turn on each other. I could almost picture Vivian torturing Ian, forcing him to hand over the $3 million stone. But I never imagined she would go this far. And I never, ever imagined Ian would choose to end it this way. Outside my window, sirens of ambulance and police cars created a chaotic symphony of sound. My phone began buzzing wildly. Jason. With trembling hands, I answered. Jasmine, something terrible has happened. Jason's voice was more grave than I'd ever heard it. I found it. I traced the 10 million. It wasn't for Ian. It was for Vivian. 3 years ago, Vivian was diagnosed with acute leukemia. She needed a bone marrow transplant, but her blood type was too rare. They couldn't find a match. Eventually, they found the only viable donor source on an underground organ and tissue market overseas. Buying that marrow source cost $10 million. The donor, Jason paused, his voice strained. The donor was Lan's biological father, a gambling addict who abandoned Ian and his mother 30 years ago. My world completely shattered in that moment. So that was it. Ian and Vivian weren't just unrelated siblings. They were half-siblings. From the same father. When Ian was still young, his father left him and his mother. Then his father started another family and had Vivian. He descended into gambling, accrued massive debts, and vanished. So, Ian's mother raised him alone, struggling through every hardship. Ian hated him. He hated that irresponsible man. But when he learned that the man he despised was the only one who could save Vivian's life, he caved. He found him, and his father named his price, $10 million. Not a cent less. He needed it to clear his debts and disappear forever. Ian didn't have that kind of money. Desperate, with nowhere else to turn, he went to Vivian's mother. She gave him the money. But she told him, "This is what you owe Vivian. From now on, your life is hers. You do whatever she tells you to do." That was where the $1 million IOU came from. That's where the 3 times a week came from. It wasn't about passion. It was the cruelest form of psychological torture a sister could inflict on her own brother. Vivian hated him. She hated the shared father who had given them both such wretched childhoods. She hated that Ian had gotten a semblance of a complete, happy family while she was left to rot in resentment and sickness. So, she wanted to destroy him, to shatter his dignity, his love, and everything he had. And I was just the most convenient tool she used to do it. The equity transfer agreement was a sham. The swapped diamond was a decoy. It was all a performance. A show put on for my benefit. She wanted me to hate Lon. She wanted me to be the one to push him over the edge. And I did exactly that. I collapsed onto the cold floor, laughing until tears streamed down my face. I thought I was the chess master. In the end, I was just the most pathetic pawn on the board. My carefully plotted revenge had turned into a cosmic joke. I had killed my husband. Yes, he betrayed me. He deceived me. But he, in his own twisted way, had also tried to protect me. He didn't sell my apartment. He never truly intended to take my studio. And in his final moment, with that eerie smile, he told me he was free. Finally free from the torment. My phone rang again. It was a call from an unknown number. I answered. It was Vivian. Her voice was a sharp, insane shriek of laughter on the other end. Did you see, Jasmine? My brother is dead. Pushed to his death by you, by me, by all of us. Ha 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 ha. Aren't you proud? You won. You destroyed the man I loved, and you destroyed me too. You know what? Just now, in the club's private room, I pulled out my own 4-line. Vivian rambled on. Without the medication, I won't last the night. I'll be waiting for you in hell. Waiting for you to come down with that $3 million diamond of yours, that fake piece of glass. I had it made from cubic zirconia. Ha ha ha. Jasmine. None of us are getting out of this clean. Then the call ended. I sat there, phone in hand, utterly numb. Outside the window, the sky began to lighten, pixel by pixel. A new day was beginning. But my life had ended, forever frozen in that blood-red dawn. I walked to the window and opened it. With all my strength, I hurled my phone into the distance. It traced a faint, insignificant arc through the air before vanishing from sight. Just like my arrogant, grand revenge. Just like my absurd, tragic marriage. Just like my completely demolished life.
Silent.
Without a trace.